Stilo 404 Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC. Shout out to Marlo's Corner, Trey X, and the whole block fam. Okay, so I was just on Main Man, Made Man's channel. Salute to him. I was watching a little short live stream he did, and it was entitled something like proof that Dillian Whyte is ducking Luis Ortiz. And he's basically challenging some guy who said that he didn't have evidence to support his claims of Whyte ducking Ortiz, and he basically was gonna tell them to get at him and they're gonna chop it up later. But anyway, in watching that video and being on that live stream, I've been thinking about, you know, the whole saga between Dillian Whyte and Luis Ortiz. And there have been countless times that Dillian Whyte's uttered Luis Ortiz's name. I mean, there's lots of time. Most of the time he mentions Luis Ortiz's name, it's never anything respectful coming out of his mouth. It's primarily him insulting Ortiz for being old, basically discounting Ortiz as a legit fighter. And most of those conversations tend to be in response to Dillian Whyte trying to insult or put down Deontay Wilder, saying Deontay Wilder ducking him, and then in turn he discredits Luis Ortiz as a legit opponent, being as though Deontay Wilder has fought and stopped Luis Ortiz now 2 times. Alright, that said, Dillian Whyte himself has had numerous opportunities to fight Luis Ortiz, but always finds a way to finagle his way out of it and fight someone else. And I remember a time when Luis Ortiz was out there without an opponent, trying to get a fight with any of the top guys in the heavyweight division. Deontay Wilder himself had laid down the gauntlet, saying any man who beats Luis Ortiz has an automatic shot at my WBC title. I'll make sure that happens. Okay? There were no takers. The only guys Luis Ortiz was able to get a fight with were Kajanu, Travis Kaufman, Christian Hamilton. None of the top guys were able to get the gumption to come fight Luis Ortiz, or have Luis Ortiz come to them, whatever the case may be. All right. It was at one point the anticipation of the fight was starting to build. People were talking about it. It was getting a little buzz. Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz, and of course Dillian Whyte, his side, kept shutting it down. Well, suddenly there's it reached a point where ESPN's Dan Rafael released basically dropped an article saying that Whyte versus Ortiz was very close to being done, or almost a done deal. However it was phrased, I don't exactly remember. And I remember going out making videos on it. I made a video on it, basically was giving Dillian Whyte his props for backing up what he was saying. Saying that, okay, you know, he was dismissive of the guy. Now there's the opportunity to fight him. He's going to sign to fight him. And I gave him his props. Well, the very next day, they announced Dillian Whyte versus Joseph Parker. So the whole thing with Luis Ortiz was basically just a hoax. You know, and around the same time, Dillian Whyte had also was supposed to have agreed to fight Pulev, but he didn't want to go to Bulgaria to fight Pulev, so he refused to fight. So he ended up fighting Joseph Parker, and instead of Luis Ortiz. And then there was another time last year around this time. Matter of fact, it was coming up on Wilder Fury, the Wilder Fury fight, and Luis Ortiz was already supposed to be on that card. Well, Dillian Whyte was running his mouth. Luis Ortiz said, okay, he'd come over there to fight him, and Dillian Whyte started backpedaling, basically drug his feet, and Luis Ortiz went ahead and got back on the Deontay Wilder card and fought Travis Kaufman. And I'm saying all of that to say this. A mouth can say anything. Any of these fighters can get in front of a microphone and say anything that comes to their mind. Just like us guys on YouTube, talking into our cameras, talking into our microphones, talking at our computers, what have you. But when it comes to these fighters actually doing what they have to do to make the fight. They're few and far in between who actually go through the lengths to make happen the things that they say they want to see happen or that they want to happen for their careers. And a lot of that's all typically centered around guys that are legit threats. Certain fighters seem to find ways not to fight those guys. And Dillian Whyte is one of those guys who, I hate to use the term, but he's like a world-renowned clout chaser at this point. Dillian Whyte goes out of his way to bring up guys' names, but he's not doing what he's supposed to do to make the fight. Dillian Whyte, also had an opportunity to fight Luis Ortiz. Not Luis Ortiz. Had an opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua in the rematch he said he wanted. He turned the fight down for some reason. So I'm tired of Dillian Whyte clout chasing to make himself look good, but ultimately not making these fights. D-Lo 404 Boxing, I'm out. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Peace.